Okay, so I'm no writer. I work in an office in the IT department, but I just had to post this since the craziest thing happened to me just last night. So, a week ago, my lovely wife, who is a daycare provider in a daycare center in downtown Chicago, she forgot her keys at work. She works at one of Chicago's oldest daycare centers, which was rebuilt just after the Great Chicago Fire and is located near the water tower. She has wanted to work in childcare for as long as I've known her, and she absolutely loves children. Her daycare takes care of kids from the age of 3 months up to 5 years old. I personally think that you have to be crazy to leave a 3-month-old baby in a daycare facility, but nevertheless, that is the policy. Lately, though, my wife has been throwing herself into her work and has been working crazy long hours since we recently lost our son, our first child, at the age of 10 months old due to his IDS, sudden infant death syndrome. It has, obviously, devastated both my wife and I more than you can possibly imagine, and has, frankly, put a great strain on our marriage. Anyway, about a week ago, my wife, who was probably exhausted from all the extra work and hours, left her keys at work. She didn't realize she lost them until very late in the evening, as I was already home from work when she got home, so she never needed to use them. They contained not only our house keys, though, but also the keys to the daycare center, and she had obviously left the daycare center unlocked at the end of the day, so she decided to drive back to the daycare center to retrieve them and close up. When she got home, she looked absolutely terrified. I could tell immediately that something had happened, but she would only cry on my shoulder and stare off into space, and no matter what I said, would not tell me what happened. The very next day, she woke up with a pounding headache, and since then has been acting very strangely, and generally not feeling well. Well, last night she forgot her keys again at work, and obviously had forgotten to log up as a result. I know she hasn't been feeling well, but I was still kinda pissed off when she asked me if I could go get them for her, as she was feeling under the weather. It was already past 11 p.m. when she asked me. But being a good husband, I decided to go get the keys and log up the daycare center for my sick wife. I hopped into my car and quickly drove over there. There was little traffic at 11 p.m., even in downtown Chicago, as it was a weekday. Now, before I go further, let me explain the layout of this place a little bit. To get into the daycare center, which is on the basement level of an apartment building, you have to go down these stone steps from street level until you get to the door. The door then opens into a very large basement. This is the daycare center. There are no windows at all, since a few years ago they had some break-ins and they decided to just break them up instead of, as they were already near the ceiling of the basement and weren't really of any use anyway. So when you go in at night, this place is extremely dark. For that very reason, my wife installed some nightlights in the wall outlets, but as you know, those only provide very limited illumination. As I walked down the stairs, I began to feel an eerie chill go down my spine. Something just didn't feel right. But hey, I'm a grown man, and I was entering a daycare for God's sake, not a haunted forest. So I proceeded down the stairs and descended into an almost pitch-black darkness. I cursed to myself as I realized the vast majority of nightlights weren't working. In fact, only one was working, and of course it was the one in the back corner of the room, furthest from the door. My wife's desk was rather near the entrance, so I didn't have to go more than 10 feet into the room to grab the keys. But as soon as I grabbed the keys off the desk, though, I realized that there was a baby in the room. It was softly giggling to itself and was a little less than a year old, if I had to guess. It was in the back corner of the room, near the nightlight, which is the only reason I was able to see it at all. At first, of course, I didn't even realize that there was anything off about the baby, and I started walking towards it in order to pick it up, until I realized that the baby was crawling backwards. I was still so freaked out that I almost picked up the phone to call the police, but when I didn't see or hear anything,
Where was that baby?
I realized how stupid I would look if the police came down here to find me in an empty daycare center a little after midnight, claiming that there was a baby crawling backwards in the corner. If I had called them, I would have been committed into a mental institution for sure, and frankly, I'm wondering if I didn't just faint or pass out and dream the whole thing. So, to make a long story short, I simply took the keys home to my wife and decided that I would keep this story to myself forever. I mean, I really didn't want to upset my wife since she was still grieving our son's death, and especially since she hasn't been feeling well the past week. But now, I'm thinking that I will ask her. Ask her if she saw what I saw a week ago, because her health seems to be rapidly declining, and this morning, I also awoke with a